As part of our information and knowledge sharing platform, I have the very unique and special privilege to meet one-on-one people from all over the world currently in Australia, either on a working visa or here on a student visa. G'day, my name's Kevin Egan and welcome to the podcast. To assist you in coming to Australia, I'll be interviewing individuals and groups to ask specific questions about their experience here in Australia, and we'll explore issues such as dealing with migration agents and the visa application process. Also be talking about working in Australia, what life is like at university and college here in Australia, renting and housing and shared housing, etc. in Australia, safety and security, and also being so far away from home, from family and friends. And today I have the pleasure to introduce to you our very next special guest. Welcome. I'm with Pablo. Pablo, could I...
Thank you for having me here. My name is Pablo and I am from Spain.
Wonderful. Whereabouts in Spain?
So I come from Alicante, which is the east of Spain.
Excellent. And for our listeners, could you give us an indication of your age?
I am 23 years old.
Wonderful. Thank you. And how long have you been in Australia?
I think it's going to be soon 1 year.
1 year. Excellent. Where in Australia have you lived and worked?
Yeah, so far only in Melbourne.
Yes.
And I work also here in Melbourne City.
Wonderful. And we'll learn a little bit about your working life shortly. How did you decide on coming to Australia rather than thinking about Canada or perhaps New Zealand?
That's a good question. I think maybe my interest in coffee led me to Australia, especially Melbourne. I heard very good things about people here, culture and everything. So
okay, I hope you've been satisfied or your expectations were met. I want to talk a little bit about your dealings and your experience with migration agents and also the visa application process. So can you give us or give our listeners a bit of an indication of what challenges and difficulties did you experience during the visa application process?
Well, in my case, I use a couple of agencies. So this is my second visa. The first visa, I used an agency from Spain, and it wasn't that difficult. I mean, you just need to provide all the documents, provide that you have like enough money or support from all the people to manage, your life in Australia. And apart from that was like, I think, luck and just waiting for results.
Now, you mentioned that you've been on 2 visas. Was the first visa, that application went through in Spain, yes?
Yes.
And the second application, tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yes. Well, as soon as I finish the first visa, you have like a 1 month period of like, the government give you 1 month of like, it's called bridge visa. Okay. And they let you stay here, but you need to get another visa or just leave the country. Okay. So in that month, I went to another agency and applied for a second visa. Okay. And I chose another course, which is now the one I'm currently studying.
We'll talk about that shortly.
Yes. So, I applied for a second visa here in Australia.
Okay. Now, the agent you dealt with here, so did they manage the bridging visa for you from your first initial visa that you got when you were in Spain to when that expired here in Australia for a bridging visa to a new...
to a student visa. Yeah. No. The bridge visa is something that everyone have granted. Okay. So if you have a visa before you came here, they know that you have like a month here, like for dealing with another visa or just leaving the country. And
with the, I'm interested with the visa that you applied for here in Australia. How long did that process take?
It was surprisingly fast.
And so how long?
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
It was like I decided to study the course. Of course, you go through the whole process, send a letter to the school, update your documents, and after doing that, it was like approved quickly. I think also the Australian government wants to, how shall I put it? If you behave and you are a good citizen and you pay your rents and you pay and you work and do everything good, like a good boy, good girl, they grant you another visa.
Okay,
very quickly.
Good. So that's been your experience. Excellent. And in terms of the migration agent, and you already partly answered this question, I guess. how did they go about advising you? Was it a face-to-face meeting or via email? Can you tell us a little bit about how the migration agent, advised you?
I believe you can do all sorts of interactions. I mean, you can do Skype, you can email them, or if they have a physical place in the city, you can visit them. In my case, I went to the place and I talked face-to-face to one of the advisors.
Good. And if you don't mind, how much did you pay the migration agents for these services?
To be honest, in this case, the migrancy agency have like a deal with the school.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they get paid from the school.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yes.
So they have like an interest in the course. So my course, let's say for instance, a course costs you, I don't know, $5,500.
Mm.
In the whole process, you will pay maybe an extra 500 or 600, something like that. That will go through to the agency.
Well, that gives our listeners a bit of a benchmark in terms of some of the business models, if you like, some of the migration agents follow. I have had meetings with other students like yourself with a fee for service from the migration agent where there'll be a direct money exchange and nothing in relation to the college, but that's a different matter. But thanks, Pablo, for mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to move on to another topic that I'm sure our listeners would be interested in, the idea of working in Australia. Now, you mentioned that you've been living and working in Melbourne. So tell us a little bit about the type of work that you're currently doing.
Right. So currently I'm working as a barista. Well, before coming to Australia, I had experience as a barista in different cafes. So, I was ready to work, and it wasn't difficult to find opportunities and find a decent job.
Good. And how long did it take you, when you first arrived in Australia, how long did it take you to find your first job?
Well, in Australia, it's very popular to have trials.
Trials,
yeah. So
what does that mean? Tell us a bit about a trial.
So basically, you will go to a cafe or to any place and will ask for a job, and they will say, we want you to show us your skills. So you will have the chance or the opportunity to work there for a couple of hours, so they can know if you are able to work in that position.
Good. And this happened to you?
Yeah, it's very easy because in Melbourne, especially, the hospitality industry is really big and always there are jobs opportunities.
Yes.
So I had so many trials at the beginning, like I was enjoying myself.
Okay, good. When you say you had a lot of trials, so obviously you did not get a job offer from every trial,
yes.
Correct? So there was somewhat of a bit of a rejection.
Of course, especially not for the skills, it was for the visa. Right?
For the visa.
A student visa has limitations. And here in Australia, normally the companies will, be legal in this case. So the student visa has like 20 hours of limitation per week, right?
In terms of your work. So
exactly.
a maximum of 20 hours per week.
Yeah.
When you're here on a student visa, that one's allowed to work.
Exactly.
And as you say, a great deal of the hospitality cafe type of industry here comply with those visa regulations. Thanks, Pablo.
Yeah. By answering the question, it took me like 2 weeks to find a job.
Okay, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. From landing in Australia to earning money. That's good. Well done. And why did you choose the type of work that you're doing?
Well, I'm passionate about it. That's an easy.
Passionate about
doing coffees.
About coffee.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're in the right city in Australia,
yes.
I'm sure. And you mentioned before about doing a maximum of 20 hours. Just for our listeners, what sort of roster and are you on in terms of timetable?
Yeah. Well, now I am part-time, so it changes every week.
Okay, so your hours are shifting every week.
Yes.
Are you working up to 20 hours each week?
Yes.
Okay, so good. Now, does that involve working Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah. So it's, as I say, the cafe works through, the whole week, 7 days. So normally I will have 3 shifts, and they will combine 8, and 6.
Okay.
So no, actually less, like 7, 6, something like that, around 20 hours.
Yes.
And they will be like 3 shifts a week, and they change.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go Sunday.
Good.
Different.
And do you mind if I ask what your pay rate is per hour?
So a barista here in Melbourne normally will get, depends of the place. Normally you will get $25 on books, and that will let you have like $21.7 an hour.
An
something
hour.
like that.
$21.70 per hour.
Hour, something like that.
Okay. Thanks. Now you mentioned you called into a lot of coffee shops and cafes asking for work. Now during that process, did you tell me how you presented yourself and if you brought any supporting documents with you?
Well, I always present myself with a school bag and plenty of CVs, resumes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing to do is always ask for the manager or the person in charge of the place. So you will, take a seat, probably a free coffee, because people is very welcome here. So talk with him or her and have an appointment after maybe a week or a couple of days, and you will do the trial.
Excellent. And how did you groom? Did you make sure you were dressed? What was the dress standard?
For me, it was always like black trousers. Depends of the place. If it was formal or informal, I guess sometimes I wear shirts or t-shirts, and always make sure that the shoes look like pristine, like really clean. And
wonderful.
Yeah, that's very important because people will say, they will look at you like from the head to shoes. It's very important to have clean shoes.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned, Pablo, the notion that sometimes you would wear a more formal type of shirt and others a t-shirt. You obviously did some research before calling into the business to get a sense of the dress, the formality and the dress code and standards of that business. So very good.
One thing I would like to mention now, you say that I do some research. Some of the cafes, sometimes what I did is go in as a customer, have a coffee and see the work path, like the speed, how they work, how they organize. So I would be like a spy in that sense. And after a couple of days, I will go and present myself and say, I'm looking for a job.
Fantastic. What a great strategy. And I think that's probably one of the takeaways we could take from today is do your research, including acting like a customer and buying a coffee or whatever business you're researching. Great suggestion. Now, what type of challenges do you face working in Australia?
First is the language barrier.
Okay.
I think if you're going to come to Australia, just make sure you have like a basic English at least. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough. For me, it was really tough at the beginning, especially in the hospitality industry. They want you to speak really fast, really quick, direct with customers. You cannot wait, think about, I'm going to say it this way or that way. So the language was one of the biggest challenges.
And before coming to Australia, had you had some level of English testing?
I had a basic English.
Yes.
Still pretty basic.
Was there a score around that, Pablo? Did you do the IELTS? Or the
maybe
TOEFL?
not at that time, but it was maybe 5.5. I guess it's 5 overall.
Okay, so a score of 5, is that IELTS?
IELTS, yeah.
Okay, so a score of 5.
Or if you want to say Cambridge level would be A2.
A2. Okay.
A2.
Okay, good. And thanks. Now, still in the topic of work, do you feel that you're working in a safe environment and you're looked after in terms of your personal welfare and you're treated with courtesy and respect in the workplace here in Australia?
Absolutely. Really, I really appreciate how at least in my experience, the managers deal with all the staff. And I never feel discriminated or, any racist comments.
Okay.
So very happy with that.
Okay, good. Thanks, Pablo. I want to move on now to another topic, really university life and college life here in Australia. I want to ask, what course are you currently enrolled in here in Australia?
So, again, the hospitality industry leads me to study a course. The name of the course is very long. Let me have just a couple of seconds.
Yep, that's okay.
It is a diploma of leadership and management.
Wonderful.
And it's, of course, if you want to move on and, manage, become a manager or run your own business, it's fantastic to do it.
Excellent, good. And so that's the course you're currently enrolled in, being the Diploma of Leadership and Management.